Despite being a huge Nintendo fanboy, I didn't grow up with a Gamecube or a Wii, which were the two consoles that were out during my early and late childhood respectively. So I feel like I owe myself the opportunity to go back and familiarise myself with their catalogues, especially the Gamecubes. I have dabbled here and there, so I'm not going in completely blind, but I do want to ease myself in, and there's no better place to start than with Super Mario Sunshine.
Mario Sunshine is a weird game. The levels and scenarios are weird, the way characters interact with you is weird, the plot is weird, it's all just very weird. Oh yeah, speaking of which, this game has a plot. This is basically the only main series Mario game that even comes close to having a plot that isn't purely Bowser kidnapping Peach. Mario, Peach and the crew decided they'd like to get away for a vacation and chose Isle Delfino as their destination, a place mainly inhabited by these odd creatures called Piantas. Side note, I know the Piantas can be real assholes to Mario at times, but I personally love them. They're just super chill and laid back. While they can have a short temper, they're usually just minding their business, just vibing. I love it. When Mario and Co finally land, they're stopped in their tracks by some weird goop. But with the help of some odd talking water jet thing called Flood, Mario manages to clean everything up. Did I mention this game is weird? Unfortunately, almost immediately after this, Mario gets arrested because apparently he's been polluting the island, which led to the Shine Sprites, a light resource of sorts, fleeing to different parts of Isle Delfino, plunging the island into darkness. So now it's Mario's job to clean up the whole island and gather the Shine Sprites, or he's never going to get a chance to leave. After Mario cleans up the island a little, a shadowy Mario doppelganger thing shows himself and decides to kidnap Peach. We later find out this is Bowser Jr., a new character who was introduced in this game. He's Bowser's son, I know, shocker, and apparently he's under the impression that Peach is his mum, and that Mario has been keeping her hostage. After gathering more shines, Mario finally tracks down Peach, and after a pretty epic boss battle against Bowser and Bowser Jr., he ends up saving the day. Go figure.
A lot of people like to poke holes in this story, and for good reason. The holes are basically already present. This story doesn't make much sense, even for a dumb Mario game. But hey, it's whatever, I love this game's vibe and charm so far. It just feels like a fucking fever dream. And I love that. I'm all about weird and out-of-the-box games in long-standing franchises. I've never played a Mario game that simultaneously feels so quintessentially Mario, but at the same time, so anti-Mario. There's a real theme going on throughout this game, and I don't know what to call it other than quirky and weird.
There's very obviously a tropical theme, which I absolutely love. But beyond that, there's just some sort of odd and wacky theme present throughout the game, which I can't exactly pinpoint or articulate. This game follows a Mario 64 level by level structure, and it works really well. I think it's a lot more refined than 64, to a degree. Although one thing Mario 64 has over Sunshine is how you progress. In Mario 64 you can get your power stars from basically anywhere as long as you have enough to open the door to get to Bowser. In Mario Sunshine you need 50 shines, and all 50 need to be required via doing 7 missions in each area of Isle Delfino, which kinda sucks. While the game does retain some of 64's open-endedness, it still has a level of linearity to it, because no matter what you do, you have to get 7 shines from each area. Speaking of the missions, most of them are really fun and creative. The game is full of cool, quirky, and challenging platforming sections and puzzles.
The creativity of these levels shines even brighter with the addition of a new mechanic.
Remember Flood from earlier? Well, he accompanies Mario throughout the game, and the developers seamlessly incorporated him into Mario's moveset. Flood feels like an extension of Mario's moveset rather than some tacked-on gimmick. Using Flood, you can glide effortlessly from platform to platform with the hover nozzle, and you can spray your enemies and your surroundings with the squirt nozzle. So basically this game is Mario Piss Simulator. The squirt nozzle can take a minute to adjust to and can feel kinda janky to use initially, but after a while it becomes a lot easier to control. The hover nozzle on the other hand immediately felt like second nature to me. There are also 2 other nozzles that if collected will replace the hover nozzle, called the turbo and rocket nozzles respectively, but other than finding secrets and completing the occasional platforming section, I didn't find much use for them. I'm assuming these items become a lot more helpful and important when trying to go for 100%, but fuck that. For those who don't know, the majority of the game's shines are acquired via the collection and trading of blue coins, which in this game are oftentimes placed in some of the most cryptic places you can imagine. So yeah, fuck that. But anyway, going back to the stages, I think they're great. As I mentioned earlier, almost every mission comes up with some kind of creative use for FLUDD. And if you're not a fan of FLUDD, worry not, because there are actually some sections of the game where FLUDD is taken away from you, so you can enjoy some raw platforming goodness.
This brings me to the controls. While they're not horrible, they can fuck you over, especially if you're new to the game.
You see, the controls can sometimes be somewhat floaty. Mario feels very light and effortless to control, but that effortlessness can ultimately be your undoing, especially in tight platforming segments. And in the segments without FLUDD, this becomes painfully apparent. Mario starts to flip and glide everywhere and it becomes Mario's Suicide Simulator. The game's physics are almost exposed in a sense during these segments without FLUDD, but that doesn't mean the game controls badly. If anything, these segments help with the levels going forward that involve FLUDD, because by learning Mario's fundamental moveset without the use of FLUDD, players won't abuse FLUDD throughout the game, and will complete tasks with a mixture of competent platforming as well as FLUDD's abilities. That being said, the controls can be a little wonky initially, much like FLUDD, but once you master them, they honestly grow on you.
I'd go as far as to say this is the best Mario's ever controlled. Once you get over the slight slipperiness, the controls feel really smooth and perfectly responsive. I'd also go as far as to say this is the hardest Mario game I've ever played.
When I played this game for the first time, it felt like a breath of fresh air. This game is far from baby's first platformer. Some missions can be a drag and much harder to complete than others, but in the best way possible. It helps keep the player on their toes. But these segments can also be a turn-off. Luckily, the game is fair more often than not, and I never really felt like the game was screwing me over because I felt like it was my fault whenever I failed. The game will give you a level of frustration in certain segments, but the segments are never really unmanageable. That's not to say that there's absolutely no bullshit in the game, because there definitely is, but more often than not, you can beat a certain section with nothing more than a bit of trial and error.
And I don't mind redoing certain missions because I get to look at and appreciate the scenery all over again. The game's presentation is stellar and it holds up incredibly well.
The presentation almost has a timeless feel to it. I can tell it's a 6th generation game, but honestly, you could probably slap it on the Switch and call it a new game and I wouldn't complain. Okay, yeah, maybe I would. All of the environments are really bright and pop out at you. Rarely if ever does anything look out of place. And all of the new characters and enemies introduced just seamlessly fit into the world. It really surprised me. I've already mentioned the Piantas, but I can't understate how much I love their design. They're just great. I can always appreciate a simple yet elegant design, and the Piantas pull off that type of design really well. I'm a bit iffy on the Nokis, but some of them look pretty cool. And I can see why some people might think the new enemy designs suck. But hey, they're different, and I'd say it's a good kind of different. As I mentioned earlier, there's definitely a summery and tropical theme to the game, and it's strengthened by the fact that the world is so cohesive. Each and every area seem to just string together perfectly, and while I'm not in love with every area, I couldn't imagine the game without them. I think that's a big problem with most Mario games. Everything feels a bit disjointed, but in Sunshine, it's all consistent and I love it. You can also see certain areas while you're in a completely different area, furthering the sense of cohesion and unity between stages. The stages change with almost every mission too, so you're not getting bored traversing the same area over and over again like in 64. And the level design is great more often than not. You'll find a few duds and annoying sections as I mentioned earlier, but as a whole, the levels are great and you'll never get lost or stuck. This game also has a few bosses and a lot of them are really cool. Some of them can be a tad easy and you have to fight the same goddamn blooper like 3 times, but I really enjoyed fighting the bosses. The music is also great, a lot of it is summery and tropical, and the soundtrack shows off expert use of leitmotifs. It's really rare for me to find a soundtrack that has a large majority enhancing the gameplay. But with a lot of the tracks on here, they make you want to kick back and enjoy hours of relaxing platforming fun.
And that's what you get with this game, a lot of oddly relaxing platforming with the occasional aggravating moment. But with all that said, I think I'd recommend this to any and all platforming fans. I'm kind of starting to see it as a touchstone of the genre in a sense. A lot of people have mixed feelings on this game, but I personally love my time with it, so if you can track down a copy, grab it and you can thank me later. But anyway guys, that's enough out of me. I've been XYZCruncher, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please do feel free to leave a like, subscribe, share, do all of that good shit because it helps me get that one step closer to being able to do this as a job, which is ultimately what I want. I've got a few new reviews coming out soon. The rest of the year is just going to be reviews. I'm going to be doing... the next review is going to be start of a series of reviews, which is what I meant to say. But yeah, other than that, that's basically all I've got to say. So I'll talk to you guys next time. So yeah, I've been XYZCruncher. Stay cool, stay safe, stay crunchy, and I'm out. Peace.